Today I'm going to show you how to make a chess pawn using two different methods. The first method I'm going to show you is using splines and the lathe modifier, and the second one is going to be using edit poly and using bevel and extrude. So with either one of them, I want to start off with a plane. I'm going to draw out my plane in my front viewport. I don't need these length and width segments, so let's put those at 1 and 1. And let's just go ahead and drag up this plane so it's resting nicely on the x-axis. And now I want to apply my reference image onto this plane. So I'm going to open up my material editor, or press M on my keyboard. And I want to bring out a standard material. And next to my diffuse color box, I want to click on the maps, and I want to enter a bitmap. This is going to present me with a pop-up screen where I'm going to go to my desktop and I'm going to find my chess reference images where I only have a pawn in here, and I'm going to open that. And we're going to have to play with the tiling a little bit, but I'm going to drag my material onto the plane. I want to make sure that I show the shaded material in viewport so we can see what's going on here. And I'm working in centimeters, so this might be a little bit different depending on what you're working with. So 10 is way too much. Just try 1, 1. Alright, we'll keep playing. And let's actually, I forgot one thing. We want to uncheck the real world map size. And this should square us back up. So let's go back to 2. Alright. Beautiful. So let's change our front viewport to shaded. So we can see this. Our plane is a little bit too big for the purposes that we need. So what I can do is when I'm in my modify tab, I can just change the length here and maybe adjust that pawn a little bit so it's more of a correct size. That's a little bit better. There we go. Okay, beautiful. So now we're ready to start. So I want to line this up right in the center here, or as best as I can. And I want to show you the splines and lathe modifier first. So I'm going to go over to my shapes here, go to line, and I just want to draw the profile of this chess piece here. So as I'm clicking along the profile, you're going to notice that your points are edged points. They're sharp. If we zoom in here and I go to vertices, you're going to see that they're all sharp edges. For the most part, you're going to want these to be smooth. So if you select all of your vertices, you right click and go to smooth, they start to fit this shape a little bit better. So now what I can do is I can start going in here and making these fine adjustments so they're as best as they can. I'm noticing that this area right here is a little bit more square, so what I'm going to do is, while I'm still under vertex in my line, I can go under here, go to refine, and click on the second point, and what refine does is it allows you to add another vertex. So let's change these pieces back to corner, and that's going to allow us to get that sharper edge there. Maybe just that one will make his corner. So again, there's no correct way to do this. It's just how you like your piece. So I'll go through here, get a couple more of these done. Again, I could do a similar thing down here where I can refine. to add a little bit more detail. Just decided to make those corner pieces. So we do the same for here. And we're almost done. Alright, so for this tutorial's purpose, this looks good enough for me. So now we're stuck with half of this profile. What comes next is we want to go to our modifier list and we want to type in lathe, L-A-T-H-E, and we have this weird shape here. There's two ways of fixing this. Either in the in the Y direction, you can align minimum and that will extend it out. Or what you can do is when you go to lathe, you can just press this little plus sign, go to the axis, and then you can drag it out as much or as little as you want, depending on what shape you like. So that looks good to me. You might want to weld the core just in case. Sometimes you're stuck with a little hole up top here. In this case, I don't have one. And I can get rid of my reference image for this one and we're good to go. One thing that was a little bit quirky about this model is that this isn't a straight on front view, so I have this curved piece at the bottom, which if we were actually printing out this piece with a 3D printer, this would not be able to sit straight. So what we can do in this situation, if you run into a similar problem, we can go to the slice modifier. And if you see this orange box, that's the slice plane, which you can select just like you did your axis. So click your slice plane. You want to rotate this 90 degrees. I'm sorry. Yeah, 90 degrees here. And if we move it down to just where we want it to be flat, we can remove the bottom or remove the top, depending on which way you rotated it. But that leaves us with a hollow piece, as you can see. So to remedy that, we go to the modifier list again, go to cap holes, and voila, you're good to go. If your line that you created isn't totally as detailed as you want and you want to make these edges smoother, you can either go back to the line and change those pieces, those vertices to smooth, or what you can do is you can go to Turbo Smooth and you can add that modifier to smooth that stuff out. Alright, so that's the first way that we can do this. The second way is one of my favorite ways, and we're actually going to start off with a cylinder. So I'm going to go back to my geometry tab. I am going to drag out a cylinder in the top viewport. So let's just drag it out here. We can always change that. And obviously this is way too tall, it's too wide. So let's fix that. Height. We only want the height to be as tall as this first little step here in our chess piece. So let's up this radius a little bit more. That looks about good. Move my background piece. And maybe I'll change my height segments to 3. I don't need all that geometry in there. So what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to go to my Modify tab, add an Edit Poly. You can also do a right-click, Convert to Editable Poly, if that suits your needs as well. And then I want to go to the top of my polygon here, and I'm going to start off by insetting it. The reason why I'm insetting is because I'm recognizing that this next little level up here is narrower than the one below it. So what I can do is I can go up and I can extrude it, and that looks good for my next level. Now here, where we start to have this curve, we can use bevel instead. It's a two-step process. So it starts off with an extrude, and then you go out. And it starts off with an extrude, then you go out again. And we can start tapering that back in as well. So I'm just going to continue using my inset, my extrude, and my bevel until I reach the top of my piece. You may follow along with me as you're doing this, because of course practice makes perfect. Let's make our way up here. And feel free to make your chess pieces as unique as you'd like. I'm copying these pretty straight on just for the purpose of this tutorial, but I highly recommend using those creative juices and getting creative, because why not, right? So the most common thing that people do is they'll make this body and they'll do a really, really great job making it using this little trick here, but then when they get to the top here, they just add a sphere, which I guess you could do, but in 3ds Max, I like working with just one piece. I don't like having a bunch of other pieces attached to each other. So you're just using bevel and you're doing a little bit at a time, bringing it up, bringing it in, until you have that nice spherical shape that you want. And let's just close that up there. And if you want, we can inset this top a little bit. I don't like that. I want to do a couple more here. I didn't want to have that top be so flat. Actually push this down. Alright. So let's see what this looks like. I'm going to get out of my Edit Poly. And let's click on the reference image and get this out of here too. So we have two pieces that are very similar. One is a little bit wider than the other, which is okay. Just remember, if you are going to scale it, make sure you're going to do it in a nice way. If you just go in one axis here, it's going to smush the entire thing. But I kind of like that. Again, with this one, you can also do a turbo smooth modifier, and that's going to just give it its final detail. So if you have any questions, please feel free to post them and I will get back to them as soon as I can. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you found it helpful.